Today we're going to be taking a look at the rebuild process of the Bulldog square 10,000 pound lift, 12,000 pound static capacity jacks. Now these you'll most often see on the front of very large utility trailers and even some fifth wheel campers. There are several kits available to help you along with your rebuild process. Here we'll have our internal screw, thrust washer, bearing, and pins. This is part number BD500217. Just the bearing itself is part number BD001015. And we're also going to have our gear, bushing, and spring replacement kit. Now that gear kit is part number BD500212. There are also two types of handles available, one being the vertical, which you see here. This part number is BD015181. We also have a horizontal option available. I'll explain to you the difference in those in just a minute. That part number is BD800090. The first thing we need to do is remove the cap located here on top. That's going to be a 5/16 inch socket or bit driver. So those are just going to come out, and we'll have one of those on each side. Once we pull that off, you'll see inside we're going to have a lot of grease, and hidden in there will be a few gears. At this point we need to get in here and just get this grease out. We're going to be replacing it. You just need basically like a universal grease. It doesn't have to be anything high temp or anything like that. Just get as much of it out of there as we can. It's going to give us a good look inside. What we'll need to do is slide the spring over, just like that, and you see how that pin slides out? That's the pin that holds this shaft in place side to side. So we'll remove that and set it aside. It's going to allow us to pull the shaft out. And we'll just kind of compress our spring a little bit and be able to pull that out. With that out of the way, you see that gear is going to come out. Set it aside. Inside of each outside tube there, you're going to have the bushings. Pull those out. Then the main gear on the bottom, we should just be able to lift straight up on that, and we can remove it. You'll also see the pin for that right below it. Then here we'll see washer we can take out. Now that's going to be all the components that are in the gear and spring kit. So if that's all you need to replace, you just put those back in at this point and your job's going to be done. If you need to go further than that, if you need to get to the bearing or if you need to get to the screw, well, now we need to separate the outer tube from the inner tube of our jack. So lift up on that. It's going to give us access here. Here you'll see the bearing. Again, that's the part that is available individually or as the entire screw kit. So we'll set that aside. Here's our thrust bearing. Now our pins. These are just going to slide out by hand. All of this comes apart really without too many tools. And at that point, we're able to lift that screw mechanism right up and out. Now, we would bring in our replacement. As you can see, put a little bit of grease on it. Our replacement would drop right down in. Then we'll need to place our pins back in. Then you can take your replacement thrust bushing, put that down on there. Our bearing is going to sit on top. Now it's important to position the bearing so that this opening is facing downward. That's going to help protect it from any moisture and help any rain that might get in there run off. Once we've got this in place, it's time to put our outer tube right back on. And as we do it, we'll see the screw come through the top. Yeah. Now your washer that you took off the bottom or the other thrust bearing, that goes on. Now the larger of the pins that are included in the gear and spring kit needs to slide through the hole that we've got in the top of the screw. You just kind of want to center that on your screw, and then you'll be positioning your large gear right down on top of that. You want that pin to sit in those two slots. Now we'll be bringing the handle bushings through each side. Just like that. Now our gear for this side is going to sit down in there. You want to make sure those teeth line up. And then we need to slide in the crossbar or the main handle beam. You just want to make sure that the hole, see that smaller hole, it's going to be offset to one side. Make sure that's on the same side as your gear. Now before this fully passes through, we want to get our spring in place. So you bring your new spring in, and we need to kind of get that compressed so it'll slide over the end of that gear. And then line up with our handle bushing on the other side, and then we'll just push this clear through. Now if we compress our spring, we just want to line up that hole with the hole in our gear, place our pin in, and then you see how that spring kind of goes along the bottom side? All we'll have to do is push this down until the top side clicks in. Just like that. You see at that point, we're back fully operational. It's just time to fill this up with some grease. Now you can do that now since you have access, or you also have the 2 grease zerks here on the side. Definitely recommend doing it beforehand though. Now we'll just take again, a little bit of all-purpose grease. This is a high temp grease. It doesn't have to be. I want to make sure we get plenty on our gears there. The good news is you're not going to be able to over grease it, so get plenty in there and should keep everything lubricated. Now at this point we can put our cap back on. Now depending on your situation, you may have a pair of these with a bar running between. You'll want to put your bar on going over to the slave jack. But we do have 2 different handle replacements available. This one's a vertical handle replacement, which means the connection point here is going to be vertical, or it's going to be up and down. So to replace the handle, that's going to be placed on there. So we've got a bolt with a flat washer. We want to slide that through. Flat washer on the other side. And then this lock nut, you just want to get it down so it makes contact with the outside. So that's going to allow us to rotate our jack up and down, and then to store it, essentially what happens is you're going to pull out and then allow that to rotate down. Now a vertical handle position is going to allow us to bring the handle over to the front side of our jack, and we can use a handle keeper, part number BD500312. You can weld it on. Now if you want this to be on the side of the jack rather than in front, we need to switch over to the horizontal handle. Instead of these being up and down, they're going to be side to side, which would then allow us to tuck our handle alongside of the jack. And that'll complete our rebuild of the Bulldog 10,000 pound lift capacity jack. We hope this will show you that with just a few parts and a few tools, you can rebuild your Bulldog jack rather than having to do a complete replacement.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at Etrailer.com.